In the days before the internet, it was harder to find out what the latest baseball score was or what happened at a school board meeting that day. So often, the only way to get the information people were looking for and much more was to look to newspapers. But in the age we are in now, that has all changed. In fact, according to the Associated Press, more than 1,400 cities and towns across the U.S. have lost a newspaper over the past 15 years. In today's WHFH 88.5 FM radio documentary titled Extra Extra, The Decline of Newspapers, we will dive deeper into this depressing topic. To understand how newspapers have become so bleak, we first have to go back to the beginning of the Republic. Newspapers and the free press helped to define American democracy, according to the Wall Street Journal. But since that time, the way people consume their news has drastically changed. Donna Vikram, a longtime columnist and reporter at the Daily Southtown, explains how people's conception of news has changed over the decades because of drastically changing technology.
Definitely the availability of technology. Technology has evolved, and just like people used to at one point use typewriters have fallen by the wayside because something better came along, something more efficient and more accessible. And so online came along, and it made access to information easier and much more accessible and more immediate than a print newspaper, than having to wait for something to be written and produced and then delivered.
With so many faster and easier ways of consuming the news, like Twitter, Facebook, and other social media, it has hurt the newspaper industry. In fact, on Twitter, there are more than 100 million users that log in daily, while on the other hand, weekday circulation of newspapers experienced a decline not seen since the immediate aftermath of the Great Recession. Average weekday circulation fell 7%. Miss Rachel Kucharski, an English teacher and journalism sponsor, is one of the few people taking action and starting a movement to revive the newspaper industry in a school setting. Her newspaper, The Voyager, is a great example of this movement. She then talks about how instant news and how newspapers just can't keep up with it.
Your news stories you get immediately, right? You can't, it's impossible to keep up with kind of the internet and the way we kind of digest news, if that makes sense, on a paper. It's hard to even print those fast enough, right? But I think there is a ritual that people have with the newspaper. There's nothing like getting your Sunday morning newspaper and sitting at the table and reading it. So I think that the stubborn individuals that we are, I'm sure that there will always be a few people who want print. But again, it's competing against instant news, right? And Twitter. And, I want to know things instantly, don't you? So it's a hard demand to meet when it comes to the paper.
We'll be right back after this short break. We'll talk about how the newspaper industry is changing, and it's happening now, all here on WHFH 88.5 FM Flossmoor. Saludos todos. As you know, culture is everywhere and may intrigue us all. The Spanish National Honor Society lets you experience that firsthand. On April 25th, 2019, they will be holding their annual induction ceremony where parents and other students are allowed to watch as HF's finest start a new chapter in their high school career. The Spanish National Honor Society helps students exercise their Spanish-speaking skills, contribute to the Latino community, and become acclimated to the culture. Want to experience Latin culture? Ven y disfruta.
Calling all HF students. Are you ready to attend career fairs so you can see the opportunities for jobs after high school?
Yes.
Be sure to set the date for March 11th all day. If you have a class at North, then you'll surely be excited to attend what your after high school career holds for you. HF will be having representatives come to the North Fieldhouse throughout the school day to educate students on their job interests. once they leave high school and head off to college or the workforce.
Welcome back to Extra Extra, the decline of newspapers on WHFH 88.5 FM Flossmoor. There has been an astronomical drop in readership, and this has affected the employment numbers in newspapers. In fact, since 2010, 30% of all journalism jobs have been lost in Canada, and 27 daily newspapers have ceased publishing. These statistics, and many others like it, have caused many newspapers around the world to shift their efforts to online news writing. Going to an even further extreme, British newspaper The Independent decided to go fully online to combat the issue of low readership. And it seemed to help because from April 2015 to March 2016, it received 10,000 net monthly readers who were mobile only, while the print version only received about 2,000 net monthly viewers. Scott Lawson, an editor at the Northport Sun in Northport, Florida, talks about the future of print newspapers and why he thinks going online would hurt the overall product.
It is going toward digital, and it is toward multimedia down the line. Yes. Print products will exist for hopefully another 10 to 30 years, but 30 is really stretching it, and 10 is probably stretching it. I worry that there will be a watered-down version of journalism, which we kind of already have. A lot of people without any sort of training or care about the craft tend to be able to write up what they think is reporting, and a lot more of it is opinion than reporting. So I think that tends to affect democracy down the line. Not right away, but down the line it does do its own sort of damage.
Donna Vikram explains how she is open to the idea of online newspapers, but is a little skeptical of the bias of these newspapers' points of views, and the many ways online newspapers can skew or even confuse the truth and the reader.
I think, online newspapers are a definite possibility and are actually happening. I don't think it matters so much what forum or what medium people use to get their news. It just matters that they get it. The downside of online is that there's so many voices out there. It's hard to know which ones are truthful and which ones are not agenda-driven, which ones are being objective, and which ones are relevant to you, to your life, to the reader's life.
The newspaper has always been a part of American communities, from big city to small community papers. Tom Houlihan, the proud co-founder of the HF Chronicle, talks about what role the Chronicle plays and how it has impacted the community, and its unique local coverage keeps his readers coming.
We've had a lot of success with our product, the Chronicle. People like it a lot. We hear that all the time. We cover local news, and we're the only publication that covers local news the way that we do it, which means that we go to governmental meetings, we cover police matters, we cover a lot, just about anything that we think is interesting in the community that we think people will want to read about. We are sort of, we are one of the only papers like this that exists right now in the south suburbs. And most, there are a couple of regional publications like the Southtown, but they don't cover the local news in a town like Homewood Flossmoor quite as much as we do.
Newspapers are becoming very rare, and it's even rarer to spot someone, especially a young person, working in the production and coverage of newspapers. With so much evidence mounting against newspapers, it's hard to believe that someone young would even get into the business. But Meredith Colas, a reporter for the Post-Tribune in Northwest Indiana, explains why she got into the business.
I didn't really grow up wanting to be a newspaper reporter, if that makes sense. It was something that I just fell into in college. Really, when I was about to graduate, I just started volunteering at the college newspaper, kind of just to, try it out, see if I like it. And I really liked it. And I sort of put it aside for a few years, working other jobs and stuff like that. And then I sort of decided to go back to school and was trying to think of something that I would like to do. And I kind of remembered this from college. And so I kind of went back and became a newspaper reporter professionally.
In doing this radio documentary, we discovered that the future of newspaper is far from bright, and the industry has a hard and strenuous road ahead of it. There is a future, at least, for a while, with young people like Meredith Colas fueling the industry. It'll be a very sad day when the era of newspaper is over. This radio documentary was written and produced by Ethan Eisenberg. The VBC would also like to thank narrator Laura Zapata and engineer Ileana Dosici. You have been listening to Extra Extra, The Decline of Newspapers on WHFH 88.5 FM Flossmoor. And remember, there are as well so many different outlets to get your local and national news. Take VTV or the VBC Radio, what you're listening to right now. It's important to stay updated in local community matter. That's why newspapers and other ways to inform the public are super important. So next time you see a newspaper, pick it up and read it. It's something that is a part of American culture,